Everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. That's much better. I'm always one to encourage individuals to respond enthusiastically when I come out to events, because I know if it wasn't for the grace of God, I wouldn't be standing here as an elected official. More importantly, when we're dealing with this topic of re-entry, I definitely know I wouldn't be standing here. And so it's important to take time out each day for me to thank God for giving me the opportunity to do the work that I do. I want to give you a brief idea of who Kenyatta Johnson is. Not Kenyatta Johnson, the elected official, the state representative. Not Kenyatta Johnson, who will be the first African-American city councilman in South Philadelphia. I'm quite sure some of you may have seen or read certain forces want to make sure that I don't get that seat. I went from a court challenge and won by 40 votes, and somehow they thought it was a crime for me to visit my fiance's house, and so somebody concocted a story and put half the story on television. But I will be the first African-American elected official in South Philadelphia. I will advocate for jobs down at the Navy Yard. I will advocate for jobs out at the airport expansion, which is a $6 billion expansion. And I will continue to advocate for those who might have made mistakes in the past to be a part of that job and economic forecasting. So I'm honored to be here to say a few words about how I support this movement. Born and raised in South Philadelphia, graduated from Edward Bach High School, went on to Mansfield University, where I received my degree in criminal justice, dual minors in philosophy and sociology, came back home, went on to the University of Pennsylvania, got my master's degree from University of Pennsylvania in Government Administration and Public Finance, went on to Harvard Business School, where I participated in a leadership program in nonprofit leadership and board management. Started my first program called Peace Not Guns in 1998. A cousin of mine and some of my friends were murdered while I was going back and forth to college. Wallace Custis, no, I don't want to put him out there, but this is the reason why he does his work, because we grew up on the same corner, 18th and Dickinson Street. But at that particular time, after me watching so many of the people I grew up with, from the sandbox to college, or from the sandbox to high school, get murdered, as opposed to me picking up a gun and going back retaliating at the individuals who shot one of my cousins, I decided to do a rally and march inside the neighborhood, because I didn't want his life and any of my friends' life to be in vain. I don't talk about my educational accomplishments to brag, but I got my first gun charge at the age of 16. Now, I know you're taking this, just make sure they don't use this as a political commercial. But I share that primarily because my empathy with this particular movement comes from an individual who lived that lifestyle. An individual who loved going down J Street. An individual who loved going down 11th and Diamond. An individual who loved the glamour and the lights of the street life. But as I grew and I developed as a young man, and some people who saw some things in myself that I didn't necessarily see in myself at a particular time, kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, Kenyatta, you can do more than what you're doing. You don't have to get involved in the things that are tearing down your community. You can develop your community and help take your community to the next level, but it's all going to start with you and the choices that you make. And so, ironically, I didn't go to college when I get involved in politics. While I was on juvenile probation, I had a judge named Reynolds. And when I had to go to court, Judge Reynolds, you know, he talked about how many birds are on the ledge, and that's how much time you're going to do and send you away. But my mom made sure that I had a lawyer. And I've been around the streets for a while, so I didn't want to get a court-appointed lawyer. Because I've been around, and I kind of didn't want to gamble. And so, to make a long story short, they took into consideration that although I got 3s in school, I did go to class. And so they said, well, listen, we'll put you on probation. At that particular time, I only went away to college to become a probation officer. And I took criminal justice because I already knew the system and knew how to navigate the system. So I figured the classes that I was going to take, it was pretty easy for me because, hey, I've been in information around house. I had the cheese sandwich. I get it. I like cheese, so for me, I didn't have a problem with cheese sandwich. But sometimes, depending on where you were at, if you got 24th and Wolf, the tea didn't taste too good. But I say all that jokingly with a bit of realness, because that was my experience. And so, separate from advocating in my program, Peace Not Guns, and we teach young people conflict resolution, anger management, and anti-street education. I'm going to say that again. Anti-street education. Because half of what we have to address as a community is really the culture. Now for me, I was addicted to the lifestyle. I would enjoy hanging outside at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning with the people I grew up with. I enjoyed going to hang out in certain places, rather be the Clam Bar, rather be, I forgot the name of that club down there.
Don't tell.
It was called Dances, but for the people that's older than me, they used to go to after midnight. But I say all that to say, I used to enjoy the lifestyle. And so what I try to teach the young people that I'm talking to today is that you can enjoy yourself, but and not feel like you're a square if you go to school, if you get your education. And at the end of the day, for all of us that have been through it, and I know my story is probably small compared to some of the guys that's in this room, such as Mr. Malik Aziz, listen, a guy I always looked up to, so let's get his brother a round of applause. But he's definitely one of the pioneers of this movement that needs to be acknowledged. But I still have to say, it's important to teach this generation of young people, that we gotta have self-respect. No matter how much a person gets you upset, it's no need to pick up a gun and blow their brains away. Because it's black on black genocide. Now I'm gonna talk about the politics in the system. Because you talk about flash mobs, but let's talk about how 5,000 youth jobs were cut. So of course I'm gonna stand on the corner and I'm going to go downtown and hang out because I don't have a job, right? We want to get real about the situation. And so for me, as an elected official, is making sure that you put pieces of legislation and public policy in place that will support individuals who may or may not have made a pass, made a mistake in the past, but more importantly, making sure that the resources are there so individuals can move forward. Give you an example of some of the things I've worked on the State House. Last year, there was 2 elected officials in the state of Pennsylvania that introduced legislation that deals with juvenile homicides. We had hearings down in City Hall. I had parents testify, call me a murder lover, talked about how I was solved for a crime, because my legislation proposes if you are a juvenile and you have been given a life sentence for a homicide, that you'll have an opportunity to come up for parole. Some people don't agree with that. Some people say that you should be given, once you're given a life sentence in Pennsylvania, that's it. But I always say, what about when the family members, they come and say, well, we forgive this person. This person's reformed. This person paid their debt to society. We support them changing their lifestyle. Should they have an opportunity? There's another individual from the suburbs of Pennsylvania by the name of State Representative Rob Matsey. He also introduced a piece of legislation providing juveniles who are serving a life sentence for homicide the opportunity to come up for parole after his bill's even, my bill says 15 years, his bill says 10 years. And of course we know the climate in Pennsylvania, but we still need advocacy in terms of people still calling and putting the issue out there. And there is a gentleman who created some of the toughest sentencing laws in Pennsylvania by the name of Stuart Greenleaf. He's from Western Pennsylvania. But he has saw the light and said, listen, I created some of these mandatory sentences. And now he's one of the lead individuals in the Senate, besides State Senator Shirley Kitchen, that's out there actually advocating for reversing some of the disparities in sentencing laws in the state of Pennsylvania. Myself and State Representative Ron Waters introduced prison reform legislation that asks the state of Pennsylvania Department of Corrections to begin looking at the disparity in sentencing of individuals who are locked up for drug offenses. 85% of individuals who are serving time, drug-related. I was getting high, I might have did something wrong, and then now you get locked up. But one thing's for sure, and anybody used to get high here knows, if you don't treat the addiction of an individual, when they're going to prison, when they come home, they still got them same old behaviors, those same old habits, just waiting to jump out. So it's about treatment. Let's start diverting more individuals to treatment court, so they can get the help that they need so they won't come back out of prison and do the same thing that got them in there. So those are just some of the things I've worked on as a state rep. When I go to city council, my goal is to keep the relationship open that I have on the state level and to continuously advocate for those type of resources that support individuals who are coming home, making sure they have an opportunity to get back on their feet so we don't see that revolving cycle of recidivism of individuals coming home and going back into the system. And so I am honored to have been given the opportunity to come out here to be a keynote speaker. And I really just want to give individuals an opportunity to see who I am, what makes me passionate about the work that I do. Because for me, and I always like to put this out there, because people have perceptions of elected officials, but I can only stand on the work that I do. And I thank one of my mentors, Tyrone Ward, who took me under his wing when I worked for State Senator Anthony Hardy Williams to kind of show me the art of community organizing. But the work that I do is based upon putting the needs and concerns of people first. I don't do this work for fame. I don't do it for power. Definitely don't do it for money. Put the needs of people first. And the reason why is because when I was getting myself together, some people, again, took a vested interest in myself. And for the most part, if you've been through hell, if you have an opportunity to come back, most don't come back. Most will go move, get a nice job. They don't want to see South Philly no more. They don't want to see Point Breeze no more. They want a plush life. And all of a sudden they forget where they came from. And it doesn't become real, but then you get the mentality of passing judgment as opposed to trying to uplift people. And so, again, I'm honored to be here. Any way I can be supportive, don't hesitate to let me know. And with that being said, I thank you very much.